drop. Voodoo consumer never stop. Load up on supplies, no sale, no compromise. Gun crazy down the mall, voodoo consumer take it all. Eat this, drink this, try this, charge it, it's fabulous. Step right up and take it, it's fabulous. If you can't afford it, fake it. Be deviously dangerous, ridiculously cool. Let's make it fabulous. 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 Drive me to the bank, kneel down and give me thanks. Grab your credit card, voodoo consumer, kiss me hard. Eat this, drink this, try this, charge it, it's fabulous. Step right up and take it, it's fabulous. If you can't afford it, fake it. Be deviously dangerous, ridiculously cool. Let's make it fabulous. Too late, voodoo consumer terminate. Eat this, drink this, try this, buy this, wear this, fly this, play this, charge it, it's fabulous. Step right up and take it, it's fabulous. If you can't afford it, fake it. Be deviously dangerous, ridiculously marvelous, meticulously treacherous, disarduously cruel. Just make it fabulous. 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 Fabulous.
Support for community radio on WSKB is provided by Betts Plumbing and Heating Supply Company, an independent, family-owned wholesaler serving Westfield for over 50 years, specializing in plumbing, heating, and industrial piping supplies. On the web at bettsplumbing.com or at 14 Coleman Avenue in Westfield.
I'm Mark Auerbach. Join me every Friday at 8 a.m. for Arts Beat, where you'll meet interesting actors, directors, designers, and musicians here in Western New England.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 at 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
And we are back. We are continuing our City Council candidate interviews this morning. This is going to be the last week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yes, it is, because voting is coming up quickly.
Yes. We didn't want to schedule anything for the last week of October, so we could do the Halloween-based programming. And I've got this gentleman here. I've got Karen, and then Tina has 2 tomorrow, and then that's it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take them all together, stick them into one film, one video. It's going to go up on Channel 15 into rotation and onto the YouTube channel so people can watch it.
So is there a way that people watching can figure out when it's being broadcast?
It's a little hit and miss. There's no definite schedule with Channel 15 because it's really been fluid. Okay. Because we still haven't gotten out of pandemic mode with it, right, because we had to remain fluid for all these meetings that were going to be broadcast. But we're getting there. But it can always be on demand at the Channel 15 YouTube page.
Okay.
So continuing with our candidate interviews, I have City Council at-large candidate Dan Allie in now. Good morning, Dan.
Good morning, Ken. Good morning, Kathleen.
How are you?
Dan,
I'm doing well.
All right. the first of several questions. It should be rather simple. I want you to introduce yourself. Who are you and what do you do?
All right, well, I'm Dan Allie, City Council at Large. I've served 5 terms, 10 years already.
Jeez.
Smoke.
I remember when you first went in.
Yeah, me too. So, yeah, this will be my 6th term. So as you know, I didn't grow up in Westfield. I was born in Taunton. I grew up in a small town called Dighton, which is between Taunton and Somerset Fall River. And then I ended up, I worked for Raytheon, building computers or the peripherals for IBM mainframes. So I'm kind of dating myself there. But and then I went in the Army. I went on military leave. I was in West Germany for 3 years, back when the state was still divided. So it was still West Germany.
Oh, thanks for your service.
Oh, thank you. And over there I served as a battalion commander, secretary, and field driver, and absolutely loved it. I ran the Boston Marathon in 1981.
Wow.
Came out of the service, went back to Raytheon, and then I remember reading 3 little words, user-friendly software. And so people were not going to be buying $1 million computers and hooking them up, and the world was going to change. So you had Bill Gates, who actually wrote DOS, left IBM with the keys to the candy store, and started a little company called Microsoft.
Yeah, Kathy, DOS, Disk Operating System.
Correct. That's the language that's behind computers. And then they were going to develop a graphic user interface so people could just click on a little icon with the mouse.
GFI.
Yeah. And that would allow everybody to have
GUI. I'm sorry, GUI.
Yeah, graphic user interface. And so people could have their own computers. And so I knew the world was going to change. So I left Raytheon. That division, the building's not even there anymore, and moved to Westfield and started my own ad agency. I was vice president of an ad agency, mainly in Holyoke. And we did work for the Holyoke Mall, Pyramid Company, News Jewelers. Had many great opportunities. I got to work for Disney, and then if you remember, like Wendy's with Clara Pella, where's the beef? And so had a lot of great opportunities. Did that for a number of years. We got involved with like restoring parks, school ground, playground. We were the Peasants Review stand, so we were voted both best crowd in Holyoke twice, which is doing something. And matter of fact, that park that's at the corner of Appleton and Beach Street across from the Holyoke YMCA is named Peasants Park. We had it dedicated, and I wrote the dedication to that, which was in memory of my partner who had gotten killed here in Westfield, but to firefighters, veterans, police officers, and other ordinary people who do extraordinary things. And then I got married to Teresa, and we decided to move to Westfield, rather. So at the time I was going to Springfield Technical Community College. I've got 2 degrees past the age of 40, one in multimedia and then another one in graphic arts technology, because everything I had done before was prior to computers.
Of course.
It was all cut and paste, and separate people were doing things, and now a graphic designer does the decisions of almost everything. So the graphic arts industry was probably the first to be completely impacted by technology. And of course I was, grew up with that and that sort of thing. So we have 3 kids, 4 grandchildren, and we chose to live in Westfield. When I was in Holyoke, I worked on Steve Pierce's campaign when he ran for governor and then for Congress. And we just met so many wonderful people that were helping Steve. So we moved to Westfield simply because it's a great city. It's a large city, but it doesn't feel like a big city. There's a lot of wonderful people in this town, and it was great schools and that sort of thing. Probably the same reason most people choose to live anywhere. And so we've been here a little over 20 years now. And I was actually part of the original group that brought Papa John's to Western Mass with the very first store opening on Franklin Street.
Right, I remember that one.
Yeah, so it's been a whirlwind. I've reinvented myself several times over here, and done a lot of different things.
And I do need to keep this going because we have 9 other questions in 20 minutes. But not trying to rush you. Roads, schools, and public safety are all important. Now, how can cuts be made now that ESSER and ARPA funds are no longer in play?
Well, the priority would be schools, public safety, and then roads, if you had to prioritize things.
Okay. You just answered number 3, too.
So it's the benefit of watching some of these interviews. So we may be able to save time going forward anyways.
Yeah, that'll
But
work.
do what I can. So the school budget, I mean, all the department heads meet with the mayor. And he kind of lays out a criteria. So the city council could only vote to, let's say, cut a certain amount, but we couldn't say where the cuts would come from. I think that we did that one year going into COVID, where we cut $1 million because we anticipated cuts from the state, and then they replaced the money later on. But we couldn't say specifically. I mean, we can tell the school department, we think the administration's too heavy or this or that, but they're not listening.
Right.
They don't have to listen. And so, I mean, there's things that are expensive. I mean, we've talked about the virtual school being fairly expensive and that sort of thing. To me, a lot of government is too costly, too complicated. But that's not an area that we have purview over. And so the mayor basically dictates or asks the departments to come back. He's got certain things in mind. But when you look at a lot of the city department budgets, the operation, maybe they have capital expenditures or they have to upgrade software or replace certain equipment. So there's really nothing you can do you can't cut that. And then you have some slight adjustments to staffing. The kind of the budget buster would be, and I'll say it will, except for contractual agreements, which is, it's basically the labor, wages and that sort of thing. So even when you give out, let's say, a 2.5% increase, which doesn't sound like that much, it usually is not 2.5% because someone levels or certain lines, certain employees, it might be 11% or higher because you've got steps. Everything's tied to gross wages. So there's other costs. There's city matches to some of those funds. You've got overtime. You've got post-employee benefits.
Okay, yes, okay.
So you've got other things that it becomes a bigger figure than it just sounds, 2.5%. And the city only has new growth and then increasing taxes and fees. So in new growth, Westfield, I mean, we probably only build, in my time on the council, maybe 11 to 17 new houses a year.
Doesn't seem like much.
It's not a lot. It's not like, certainly like in the 1990s when they were adding, much more than that. And so let's say the average property tax was $5,000. Do the math, you're talking like less than $100,000 per year from, say, property taxes. And then you have TIFs that are sort of, becoming more mature and we're getting more revenue that way. But sometimes new growth can only be like $800,000 or $1.2 million. So, and if you raise taxes in town, the full 2.5%, that only brings in like $1.7 million.
All right.
So, and you have other obligations that are climbing up, health benefits and that sort of thing, plus inflation. So you have all these other obligations that are already increasing anyways. So if your new growth is only like $800,000 or $1.2 million, and then and I think if we actually give out pay raises of 2.5%, sometimes you'll be talking a couple $1 million. So the math is just not there. And we have to realize we're all one community. And if we understand where inflation is coming from, it's coming from the printing of excess money, which is devaluating our currency. Don't complain about the prices. Complain that your money is being worth less.
All right.
Right? So, so we have to kind of balance that whole thing out. But we have to understand what the root cause of the problem is.
Yeah, the Fed's working with that interest rate may not be helping either.
No, you can't even buy a home now. It's affected housing pricing and renting and pretty much anything,
Yeah. Unfortunately, I hear that might go up again. All right, so you already answered 3. What was your order of priority between roads, schools, and safety?
Would be schools, public safety, and then roads, all right? And so, with schools, I pretty much beat that one into the ground. just drove past. I mean, Westfield Technical Academy is a crown jewel. Just went past Franklin Street. That's going to be amazing. But Westfield lost about 10 years trying to build a school. And if they ever came out with a book that was like how not to build a school, Westfield would have a page in that book.
Right.
Okay. So that we lost a lot of time because the cross street thing was
Lost
on the
money,
book.
too.
We spent money on stuff.
Yeah.
And it was just rushed and not done properly, and so it delayed things because we need a new high school. We need a new police station. When you start talking about public safety, which is also critical, and Westfield is a very safe city, but when you talk about priorities of a new family moving in, what are they going to look for? They're going to look for good schools, safe neighborhoods, affordability, maybe a place to work and that sort of thing, and things to do.
Right.
Young families. Older people might be looking at a little bit different things, but most of those would still play into it, if they have grandkids and that's it in the school. But part of public safety is, our police officers who do a great job should have a safe place to go to work. And a firefighter should have a safe environment to work in.
Okay.
Okay? That talks to public safety as well. So we need a new police station. We need money to do that. So, there's all those kinds of things as well.
Right. You mentioned the police station a couple of times. That brings us to 4. Multiple locations have been suggested for the new police department. What is your ideal location and why?
Well, the ideal location would have been the parcel that's where Our Lady of Blessed Sacrament was. I don't understand why we didn't buy it then when we took the church. I think there was an occupant in the building, but for me, that's definitely an ideal location. It's central to everything.
Right.
It would definitely be a deterrent to anything going on in the downtown section because it'd be highly visible. Certainly in that whole area, and you've got, Union Street has got a significant population.
Correct.
But if you look at any of the roads from that location, our police cars are deployed all over the city, but you can get anywhere. You can get on Montgomery Road, you can get on Holyoke Road to East Mountain Road, you can get on Union Street. You can get to almost any section very quickly in both ways. And really, the church really can't do anything with that. It's not like they can ever use it for, like, auxiliary parking. I think...
too far away.
It's too far away. So I really don't understand why at that time, that we couldn't come up with, an agreement, whatever. But to me, that would be the ideal location for a lot of reasons.
All right. We have been tempted by data centers and distribution centers who want to come into the north side of the city. And when I say data centers and distribution centers, I'm talking about businesses in general. And there's open land or existing buildings up there. And they would contribute to the tax base. But it appears that it's difficult to make anyone feel welcome or wanted. And I want to know what your thoughts are on that.
Well, as you know, I'm very pro-business.
Right.
And I take everything on a case-by-case basis. We certainly need to, grow the tax base because we're not going to do it with houses. Because that actually adds, everything's, that just adds to your cost sometimes because you've got demands on your school and police and fire and other services. So we have to be cognizant of the aquifer. We have to be cognizant of there's just a tremendous amount of truck traffic at that end. But we are the crossroads of New England. I grew up in Holyoke. Holyoke is landlocked. They are going nowhere.
Right.
No more land, no more commercial development, whatever. They chose to move, back when they put in the 91, the powers in Suffield pushed it on one side of the river. Holyoke, which was a powerhouse back in the day, pushed on the other side of the river. That's why we get the whole snafu down there by Forest Park. And that pushed all the development either to the Holyoke Mall or Riverdale Road. Okay. And so Holyoke can't do anything. But we are the crossroads of New England. When you start looking at distribution, you're looking at like Rochester, New York, or like even like Westfield. When you're talking about supplying, large companies or moving things by truck. We just can't really handle any more of that. So we need to look at businesses that would bring in revenue, take advantage of the location, and we're trying to compete nationally. So we voted on a proposal to, right now it's a hypothetical, but to try to be welcoming. Like, in other words, this is what we would, do. I mean, we've got our own G&E, electricity, gas, and then we have Whip City Fiber. So we've got that. So even if we can just send that out to these national companies, that would be basically the tenants. And you could grow around the technology, and that sort of thing. Krista Mellon's mentioned, like, research and that sort of thing. Those kind of things kind of go in hand because they're very demanding in terms of bandwidth and the capacity. And there's not a lot of employees, but there's a lot of investment, and between the capital and the buildings, you would be creating revenue. So,
All right, 9 minutes to go, 4 questions.
okay.
The Turnpike interchange is a mess, and the backup going westbound exiting Westfield can be dangerous. Blandford residents said no to another exit. We have heard ideas of putting another ramp down by Savage, and I think we all know why this is taking so long to correct this issue, but is there anything you can add or do to help the situation out?
No, it's the state. That plan's been in the works for like 30 years. And really for a state that has a $56 billion budget and takes in several $100 million in the registry of motor vehicles, we've got tons of money. And Chapter 90 money is still at $300 million a year when they're not cutting it back, which is the same number it was.
It still shouldn't. It should still be more than that. Considering
yeah.
that they haven't raised it in what
15
25?
years.
Okay,
2008.
Yeah.
And then Governor Deval Patrick cut out $100 million because they didn't give him a $1 billion tax increase in what was it, 2013 and stuff like that. And you already had like $1.4 billion in excess revenues plus a $500 million tax increase. So cutting another $100 million out of the roads, are you kidding? So on a ramp that would probably cost a couple hundred, well, probably like $2 million, maybe a little bit more than that now. That's not a lot of money. It was part of the original plan. So it's really just the state not setting it as a priority when, $56 billion budget. When I got started, it was going from, Pierce complained because it was going from $8 billion to $10 billion. We're at $56 billion and we can't do this stuff. What are we spending our money on?
The Sycamore Bridge.
No, we could be here on a whole nother show. I made a career on this stuff. We're not even touching the real,
Yeah, I gotcha. Number 7, additional pickleball courts are being built in Westfield. And I should stop, like I did the last few episodes, interviews. Not all of these are my own. Some of these are an amalgam of questions that have been proposed on social media. All right. So additional pickleball courts have been built in Westfield. Although used by many, it is still a small portion of the population who use these. Are there better ways to spend this money?
Well, the reason I don't like the question is we need to, first of all, the courts that we had, these courts are getting used. The tennis courts were not getting used. They weren't in really good shape.
All right.
We need things for families to do, but also seniors. So there's a whole community of people that use these courts, even from other towns. And some of these people vacation, in other parts of the country that have activities. And so for retirees or seniors or people that are able to, play pickleball, it's a great exercise. It brings people together. And I think it's a great thing. It's one of the few things that we have for seniors or people that are able to play it, right? Part of health, besides nutrition, is getting fresh air, getting exercise, and having things to do that are healthy. So, our spending issues are not, gee, you spend some money on pickleball.
Okay.
Okay. We got a Newberry site that's been, we spent, it's what we spend money on that's probably the problem of what we're actually doing. If we got into like economic development,
Gotcha. Number 8, and 9 and 10 I can combine into one if we need to. What is your hot button issue?
For me, a lot of the things that I've dealt with, if anybody's paid attention to all the things that I've done with statewide ballot questions, other ballot questions, really making people aware of what's going on in government at every level, trying to put things in perspective so we're not, tearing each other apart and only dealing with part of the information, is really that the people need to hold government accountable. So, thank you for this opportunity and that sort of thing, because there's less candidate forums. The paper's been diminished greatly, as far as people being able to get information on candidates or what's going on in town or what's going on in the state. Some of the things we talked about, the media didn't pick up on. The $100 million cut to Chapter 90.
Right.
Nobody, and we had people in the administration at that time, and nobody said anything. People need to know what's going on. They just need information. That's how our republic was. That's why it's the First Amendment. It's not just free speech. It's political speech. It's everything, right? So that people would know what's going on and can make informed decisions, talk intelligently. That's freedom is based on that, right? That's true freedom, right? Jesus said, "You'll know the truth, and the truth will set you free." Yeah, that wasn't just semantics. He didn't waste a word the whole time. Right? So I live by that, and that's how I, got involved in the first place. I never intended to run for office. We didn't have a city councilor in my ward too for a number of months, and there was other things going on. And as I came aware of a lot of the situations that were going on with, like, the $1 billion tax increase getting to $500 million and cutting money out, and just the stuff that was going on in town with the school and whatever, it's like I was kind of asked to, but ended up getting pushed into running. Because I never intended to run in the first place. So, but that's the main thing. When it came to economic development, it was really listening to the business owners when we dissolved the bid. Because that was like over a $250,000 albatross on the downtown businesses trying to line up with enabling legislation of the world. Really?
Right.
These are barbershops and wine stores and
I remember
restaurants.
that.
That wasn't helping businesses at all. That you go on beyond, let's say, best practices in signage and helping businesses help them. We're not talking import-export, right?
Right.
And so we've lost a lot of control on certain things. But things should, even when I was in advertising, the sole justification was serving the customer, or basically that spending money, but warm bodies with money in their pockets would show up, and it helped the business. It wasn't about trying to be some giant marketing genius and just get you to spend your money.
Gotcha.
Right? I've always done that, and felt that way, And it's the same thing. Here's this city that it's a gem. Wonderful people. And I didn't grow up in this town. I had to knock on a boatload of doors for a lot of years, right? I met even more people and made other connections.
Right.
That's the priority.
All right, I've got 2 minutes left. You already kind of answered number 9, which is why did you decide to become a city councilor? You kind of covered that in the last segment.
A little bit, yeah, because like I said, we didn't have a ward councilor for a good 6 months.
Good.
And I wasn't too crazy about the reason why that was happening. So I actually was going to run in Ward 2, and then within a month there was like 4 people running.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
And it was a very low turnout in Ward 2. It's one of the lower voting, so it would have been a crapshoot. And I'm willing to work, and so I got on my bicycle, and I think people thought I was crazy at first. But, there's like 200 miles of roads and 300 miles of driveways. Get on the bicycle because you're not going to move fast enough or whatever. And just really had to talk to a lot of people and listen to people. They taught me a lot, and those are lessons I took to heart. I didn't grow up in this town. It really means a lot to me when people value my opinion or will ask my opinion on something, because that's all something I built. It's not like the town where I grew up and everybody knew my grandfather, my uncle, and all that they had done. I came here as a blank slate. When I put up a sign, it was like, who the heck is Dan Allie?
Right.
Right? Those lessons stick with you. That's what it meant to me. You know what I mean? And that's who I'm affiliated with, really.
All right, great. 30 seconds, any final words up on your soap bench to make as a plea to the citizens of town?
Nope, just please come out and vote on November 7th. Try to check out all the candidates that are running, and just really thank you for this opportunity. Congratulations on the play that you and Marion Dunk put together.
We did.
To increase the
Just finished another one, and then we're starting
the
again.
Westfield, the lighting of the Westfield theater group, right? I never recognized the. I had heard that you and Marion were identical twins. It just I had never.
Yes, we are.
I had never.
It's hard to tell us apart.
Well, I had never seen the the resemblance. Maybe it's the lighting. I don't know. But anyways.
Or the fact she's 6 feet tall.
All right. At large, City Council candidate Dan Alley, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank
Pete?
you, Dan.